Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Bancroft Brothers Animation Podcast. I'm here,
Hey,
Tom Bancroft, with...
Tony Bancroft. We are
That's
twin
you.
brothers that work in the animation industry. So if you haven't heard our podcast before, that's us, Tom and Tony Bancroft, twin animators. Did a lot of stuff at Disney, other places too, but mostly 2D centric.
Sharing a brain and carving out a future. Okay, here we go. So today, Tony, is the day. We have put this one off for a little while. Some of it has just been technical issues and trying to find the guest and lock down schedules. But a lot of it has been also a little bit of research. And now, when I say that, everybody's going to be shocked that we did any research because we're going to get things wrong. Let's be honest. This is a moving target. We are talking about AI tonight.
That's right. And it is a moving target. It's things that the thing has been changing so quickly, even since we first went on Corridor Crew, which we're going to get to in a minute, and we started talking about AI, and our eyes were open for the first time of what AI can do. And since then, it's only adapted and changed and improved even more in a lot of ways. And then there's the question mark: has it improved? Is it really what people want? We're going to get into a lot of that tonight with our friend Niko. Hey, everybody, we got Niko Pueringer with us. Hey, Niko.
All right.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
We're so happy
So good
to have you.
you.
And
Yeah.
you're at Corridor Crew, but that's not the couch. That's not the magic couch, is it?
this isn't the like actual React couch. No. And the back of that couch now is covered with so much like great art from you guys and some of the other like awesome animators we had visit.
Well, we had,
Oh,
I know that.
Do a better drawing. Yeah, now we got to
Aaron
know.
Blaze, Tony. Aaron did a nice one.
Yeah, we have the bear from Brother Bear, and then of course we have
Nobody
Pumbaa,
knows
and
the
we
name
have
of the bears and Brother Bear. Don't
I don't know.
Don't even worry about it.
It's like Kenai and Chihuahua and whatever.
Kenai and somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, it's an honor to have you. And I've been on the show, I think, 3 times now. And I think Tony once?
Just once.
Oh, okay. That's right.
But it is the highest rating show out of all of them, out of all three of them.
Is it? I don't.
It's probably because that's when they premiered their show, though.
That's true. When our anime Rock Paper Scissors dropped.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's tell that story, and I'll start it. Niko, you end it, which is we had arranged that we would be on the couch and we were going to do an animators react together, Tony and I, with you, and we shot. I don't know. It felt like we were there for an hour and a half. Maybe it was 18 hours. I can't remember, but it felt like we were there for a while. And we shot enough for like 2 amazing videos, and you cut it down to 1 really good one. And so we're done with that, wrapping that up. And you said, "Oh wait, we have a little surprise." And now you take it from there and tell us what happened.
So we had been working on this project for a few months, which is known as Anime Rock Paper Scissors, and we've done a lot of live action anime inspired short films here, and a few months before we made the short film, the whole generative AI movement was starting, or I guess the inventions, the open sourcing of it, the models, things like that. We're like, oh, here's a really powerful and fascinating visual tool. Maybe we can shoot a live action anime like we've been doing, but use this to filter us and make us look like cartoons, which is not something you've ever been able to do before, unless you like basically do 3D motion capture, which is very, very time consuming and intensive. You can't just shoot real people and filter it. And we worked on that for a few months, and it blew us away with the stuff we were able to do. And we're like, it'd be really cool to show you guys if you're down to see it. And nobody else has really seen it yet. We had just finished it. We had just watched it like the day before for the first time. And it was us just being like it's always, I don't try to put our own work on the show very often. It feels weird to like invite guests on and show your own work. But we've been working on this for months, and we're like, I'm curious what you guys think. I had no idea that it would blow up the way it did afterwards. And yeah, it was fascinating. Like I feel like the react. I mean, tell me about your guys' reactions. This is, I feel
well,
like
yeah. I mean, so
how did you guys
my memory of it was,
it?
just so people know too, in some of the backstory is that there was a moment when we finished doing our talks about the Disney years, and we were, reminiscing about scenes, and we were actually flipping animation on the show. You should check it out for sure. It was a lot of fun. Episode. And you know, Tom and I were both reacting to Niko, yours, but the whole crew, I could tell we're, you know, big fans of 2D animation, big fans of what we had created in those Disney years. And so we were like, really, it was an honor for us, I got to say. And it still is when I look back at that time of being on the couch and talking to you about what we love, animation. And so then you kind of stopped. We stopped for a minute, and there was a little break where you said, okay, we want to shoot something else. It's a little extra thing. We've been working on something. You didn't say what it was. We've been working on something, and we'd love to get just your reaction to it, good or bad. And that's important. I want people to hear that. You know, you were really open to us being honest about our reactions, and good or bad, you were going to film it and maybe use it if you wanted to, I guess. We weren't sure. But, and then you showed
it went well.
And what you saw, I mean, what the audience saw really in that video was really us. I mean, we knew we were on camera, so we were maybe being a little nicey here and there, but overall it was very genuine reaction to something that was pretty awesome to see for the first time. And I think we, in a way, we felt honored too, from the standpoint that you guys just had finished it and showed it to us as like the first people to get opinion to it outside fresh perspective. And I know it was because we have the 2D background and more of a traditional animation background that you kind of wanted to say, you know, what do you think of this? You know? And yeah, we picked apart certain things. But overall, it was like we had probably a mostly positive reaction. Now, here's one thing I will say. I don't think that we got at that time how you did it. And we talked about that more afterwards, I remember, off camera.
And I do want to dig into that, Tony, because I remember that going off with you, Niko, and kind of asking questions afterwards. Okay, so and you showed us some of the techniques and you know, equipment and things like that. But I do want to back that up just to say it was very authentic, and proud of you guys too for, you know, there were a couple negatives that we probably said, and you guys included it in the video of basically going, I'm literally scared for my future and things like that. Like we kind of did say some of that, and you included it.
I think we said this is the end of a 2D animation, or the end of our careers, or there was something like that.
But you know, it was really breathtaking, honestly, to see that, because we know enough to know how much work would go into that. And yeah, we even said it on the video, like, okay, it's like flashing around and jittery, and it wasn't like
jittery, it's weird,
it's smooth and all that,
consistent.
But kind of like the first time you saw that filter on your phone that made you look like a bunny rabbit or something, and maybe not the first time, but like those have gotten amazing too, where, you know, it can make you look like an old person or something. Like this was sort of that revolutionary, I guess. That's a horrible way to equate it, probably, but in that I'm just like, okay, there were shots in there that were just it's, but you know, because it does have that filter kind of a feel, and I guess that's why I'm equating it to that. Is like that first time you saw.
That is what it is, but
that's really what it is, right? It is a filter.
But at the same time, as you're saying, like there's real shots in there. There's actual animation, like this. Because it's basically like we still shot a whole movie or a video.
I know.
Like, it's just, in a way, it's like it's just a filter. At the same time, it's a very cool filter. It's a very powerful filter, but it's just one step out of the whole process. It's not. It's not the whole process.
When we saw after, we learned more, just like the rest of the world. When you kind of put out a "this is how we did it" kind of a video, I watched that, of course, too, and it was impressive to go, okay, this thing turned out as good as it did. Not just because of that software. These guys know what they're doing. You're storytellers. You have great shots in there, and how low budget you made that just on an iPhone and all that was additionally impressive. But there's some amazing. There's just great shots in there of like, you know, like the whole anime stuff that you were doing, and then, you know, comping in that 3D background to make it look like 3D, and so, you know, your effects side obviously paid off on being able to make it look as polished as it did. And what's even more amazing is how much of a front runner you guys were. I mean, like, it just hadn't been done before. And we're talking about, we got to dig into this. Sora has been released, obviously, and that's been the big news as of the last month or two. And you guys did this pre-Sora. And so I want to dig in a little
more
bit.
More than a year before Sora came out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was.
How were you able to
even...
the
first narrative. Yeah, we were the first narrative AI-ish. I don't know, AI is weird. It's a huge term. It's like saying the internet. Like, it's a huge thing. But like, we were the first narrative AI short film, anything narrative, honestly. Which is what it was super exciting for us in that regard. But the thing that happened is, we were very transparent with how I made this. We're super excited about it in the process. And as we mentioned in our behind the scenes, we had trained on frames from Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah.
And to us, that was just a normal part of our creative process. We use and borrow a lot of other things, other ideas, other people's work in the work that we do. It's what we've done just for a long time. It's whether we're doing a fan film for a video game or a movie scene, or like reimagining a character like Luke Skywalker doing something else. Like, we're very like, we don't like putting art, not necessarily artificial, but like, while you want to respect the people that create their stuff, we also don't put like artificial walls on the ideas. Like, if I have a really cool Star Wars idea, and I'm not trying to like run my own company and make a huge profit off it, I just want to make art about it, like I will. And that's kind of what what is happening here with Anime Rock Paper Scissors. Was like, this is a completely experimental process. We have no idea how it's even going to work. Can we turn ourselves into an anime? What anime would we want to turn ourselves into? What would look cool? Vampire Hunter D would look cool. Let's try it. It's a 5-minute short film about rock, paper, scissors. Let's go for it, and we did, and it worked, and it blew us away. It blew a lot of other people away. But then there's the discussion of what is AI going to do to artists, and this suddenly became you guys trained on someone else's art. You stole that art, and
copyright infringement.
Like,
that whole
well, yeah,
issue.
you really became the focal point of the other side of the AI argument, which was, wait a second, you did something cool, but that only lasted a beat. The next step was, but you did it by copying this very classically well-loved anime. Did you? Is that do you have regret there on like? Because here's the thing. I just want to say this. I sensed when you guys showed it to us, you guys were just excited to try this new thing. And that was the heart and the intent.
It was a fun project,
And so I think it did get way out of proportion. Like, it wasn't like you were making money off of this. Like, you literally were just going, can we pull this off? And if anybody watches your guys' show, every episode you're doing something to go, can we pull it off? You're not trying to like kill somebody's career or anything like that. You made a really passionate speech even in that video about how your feelings about AI, and that basically, and even that wasn't enough. And I do get it now looking back. And I think that's my question to you is, do you now looking back go, I wish we would have, like, our intentions were good, but I wish we would have done it a little differently?
Honestly, I don't wish I would have done it differently at all. I mean, the regret is that it became such a, I guess, like, focus point of the discussion, because the video kind of became a figurehead for all of those things going on. But at the same time, it's like, to me, it's like, it'd be one thing if Disney developed something like this and kept it closed source, and then just dropped a movie where they, managed to make it by literally just pulling in all this other data and all this other art. And then it's like, okay, box office ticket sales, let's go. Like, sorry, I shouldn't be swearing, but screw that, right?
Right.
But
we're a clean show, but
but the whole point of why we were doing it was to show people how it works. It's like, yes, you take images and you train on them, and this is what happened when we did it. No one's ever done it. We've never done it before. We didn't even know if this was going to work. Like, I didn't know what a data set was when we started this. Or, it's like, it's one of those things like, in hindsight, people are like, why didn't you use your own data set? It's like, that concept didn't exist when we started this project.
Right.
The concept exists because we did this project. It's like, it's like,
well, and that whole,
works.
Now it's like an obvious solution to that issue, obviously, because people have thought about it and figured it out and said, oh, well, maybe if we had closed data sets and it was pulling just from that. Now, the second one, though, you did do that, right? You did another rock, paper, scissors too. and you actually created your own data set. You hired an artist, and they created all the images, still kind of an anime style and stuff. What was that one like in comparison?
Well, like the whole idea is, at the end of the day is, if you're an artist, you don't want to just use other people's stuff. Like it's inherently, you don't want to do that. That's not why you become an artist, right? You become an artist to create things. And if we want to use these AI tools, like, to us, it's not a valuable thing if we're just going to be like, I guess I'll just use someone else's character designs, because you don't actually want to do that. That's not why I'm here making things. You want to have your own ideas, your own creations, your own characters, things people have never seen before. But the only way to do that is to create it yourself. So this whole process, it was us trying to figure out how to even use these tools. Like, we were basically the first people figuring out how to use these tools in this way. And, step one is like, can we do it? Can it even work? Is it even stable enough? Can we get a style? Like, does any of this even work? And you can't turn to an artist and be like, hey, I need 10 pictures of this and 10 pictures of this, when you don't even know what that is. So that was the first project. That was Anime Rock Paper Scissors. It came out around the same time a lot of this dialogue around what have these models been trained on was being, I guess, really ramped up in the discourse. But then when Anime Rock Paper Scissors 2 came along, we trained up our own style, because that was the whole point in the first place. That's what we were trying to learn how to do, was to do that. We didn't know how to do it when we made Anime Rock Paper Scissors 1, because that was us going to school and learning how to do it, so that with Anime Rock Paper Scissors 2, it could be like, look, we can make our own cartoon in our own style with our own characters. Like, this can be our world with our creation. With a new tool
I remember afterwards having that discussion with you. So you had just gone through this. This is literally right after we saw that Anime Rock Paper Scissors, and my first question was to you, and please don't, the internet, don't roast me on this. I said, so we were going over, you're like, see here, we put together, here's a bunch of images, this is sort of our library that it's drawing from and all that, and then here's our live action, and then it kind of puts the two things together in a very, I'm simplifying, but then I kind of said, okay, how can I use this as a tool? Immediately I go to, is this, and this is a bigger discussion, honestly, can we use AI as a tool, or is it just going to be like a wave overtaking us all, right? And so there is a heart, that's a bigger, that we'll get to in a second. But my question to you at that moment was like, what if I did, say, rough animation, and I then fed in that character into, and I did a bunch of drawings, all rough drawings, probably at different angles of the character, but it's my original character. So I'm creating a clean database, basically, because they're all my drawings. Could I then tell it to in between it? Would it, and that was an experiment that immediately I was like, I want to try that. Do you think that's, and so now I'm going a little closer to what my bigger question is using it as a tool. Do you think, because at the time you were like, I think that's possible. Do you still see that as a viable, I don't know, opportunity, or even a something to try?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the whole, I think, endpoint of all this stuff. We have to, people forget that we are like in the early stages. Not like, this isn't Pixar in 1990. This is Ed Catmull in like 1960.
Yeah.
We
Doing
are,
a CG.
we are doing
Yeah.
the
Oh, you really think
CG
that?
hand,
You
right?
think that's how early it is? Wow.
I mean, yeah, it's literally only like a year and a half, 2 years old now. It's like diffusion imaging wasn't even available as a tool, for anybody to mess around with in any capacity whatsoever that was effective more than 2 years ago. Like, it's brand
That's
new. Like,
true.
the concept of digital art and computer tools, like, that's not new, of course. And AI as a tool, like generally tools using machine learning specifically, those have been around for a while as well. But specifically diffusion-based generative AI, like, it is brand new. And we are still in the super, super early days. The main thing I think that people forget a little bit, like, AI moves fast-ish. It seems like it's moving fast. Part of it is that we get to see constant updates now. It's not behind closed doors. It's a lot of different people openly developing things. So even little features, you read about it. So it feels like stuff's happening all the time, and it is, but it's not necessarily like world-shattering things happening every week. It's just little advancements happening everywhere, and you get to see it all. But the other thing is that, like, it's still a tool at the end of the day. It's still being driven by humans for human purposes, and people only move at a certain speed. No matter how fast you want to move, like people take time to either refine a tool to be useful or to figure out something that they like from it. You know, it all depends on what the tool is that you're referring to. But like, we do forget a little bit at the end of the day that's like it's still being driven by people on all ends of the process, and that's really what sets the speed at which things actually move. So yeah, and so it's a very roundabout way of me saying I do think the things that you're talking about are possible. If they're not happening yet, it's because things simply take time. It takes, you know, somebody's got to actually do some animation with it and then give feedback,
and
and somebody's got to
iterate.
take the time and put in the money
Yeah.
to, you know, it's just work. It's just work. An AI can be as advanced as you want, but somebody still has to sit there and be like, type, work, talk,
So
plan,
Niko,
Well, and make decisions, make creative choices too. I think that's important to point out too, that there is still an artist behind driving the machine. That, you know, I don't like the look of that. So whether you call it, you know, they're adding their own taste to it, their own instincts. But I'd love to. We're talking about software now. Sora came out not too long ago, and this was after your rock paper scissors. And I remember seeing the press release. I mean, it kind of made a big splash on one day, where all the news channels were covering this. It's like OpenAI, this new company, they created Sora, and it's just amazing. They'd show all this like footage of like 3, you know, woolly mammoths running through the snow and dust being kicked up from the snow.
Photorealistic, all of it. Very
photorealistic. You know, text to image style AI. That seems to be the new breakthrough. I wondered what your reactions, Niko, was when you first saw some of the clips from Sora, and where do you think that's going to go?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, you know, it's funny. This is good timing for the podcast because I actually just did a pretty big presentation on AI and animation in AI just a month ago at the HPA conference. And so to get to talk about Sora, I want to kind of get to another concept first, which is the concept of being able to make stuff with machine learning tools and what it means to have like a data set. And I'll get us to Sora through all that.
Sure.
And like how useful Sora may or may not be and like what purpose it serves. But you know, tell me if you guys feel differently, but I kind of feel like a lot of AI generated images and AI generated art, it's pretty, but it's bland. Do you guys have that feeling when you look at AI generated art?
Oh, for sure. And
emotional. Yeah.
There's a deeper point I want to get to later on, which is really the acting and performance, the expressions of the faces and things like that. That I feel like something that's still pretty far off. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, so pretty and bland, and like, why is AI art pretty and bland? Like, why? How can it be so aesthetically pleasing, and yet at the same time, so like, boring, seen it, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, we're kind of getting into like human, like I guess subjective human emotions and thoughts here. But when I look at machine learning as a tool and how it works, you know, machine learning, AI, it's machine learning. It works by basically creating statistical models for something, whether it's taking visual forms and making statistical representations for how often a form is associated with a word, for example, like cat associates like 2 points in a circle, right? You know, the silhouette of a cat might also associate like a cat eye. You know, so these are statistical representations. If I type tree, ideally it's representing or associating the color green, the idea of a stick and then a puffy thing at the top. Like, so I'm talking about, you know, right now kind of getting examples in the visual realm for AI, but you can also think about words or like LLMs like ChatGPT. At the end of the day, all these things are basically just a computer measuring data and finding statistical relationships in that data and probabilities and that kind of stuff. So when you think about art and AI art and images, why are they bland? Well, they are a medley of data of images that it's seen before. It's a statistical representation of the images it's seen before. Now, it's not regurgitating the image it trained onto you, but it's regurgitating a mix of all those ideas. So what you end up with is an average. And you end up with pictures that are average. I don't mean like average ideas, but they're ideas that have been done enough.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Idea. So yeah, if you think about like the most format cliche TV crime drama, like the most cliche episode of Law and Order, like the perfect middle of the road version of CSI, like that would be like the equivalent of an AI writing a TV show having been trained on those TV shows, right? It's going to give you the average. And for art to be interesting, it needs ideas, and ideas are invariably new ideas. You know, you're always bringing something new to it to make it fresh. And currently, with the way that we are interacting with generative AI from like bigger companies like OpenAI, they've put in all the data and they're giving it to you. And the only way you can create something fresh is basically just by collage, by going, hey, no one's combined penguins and neon signs before, and then it gives you a neon sign penguin. It's like, cool, but you're still just taking things that are already there and mixing them. You're not giving me something new. And so to take us then over to Sora is super cool, and it shows a bunch of cool tech for how you can effectively render things using diffusion-based video rendering. It's a render engine, you know, to put it that way. Now they say it's like, well, it's a world simulation engine. It's like, no, it's like everything else. It's a statistical representation of the data it's been fed. Sora is giving you back mix and matched visual concepts and like subject concepts from what it was trained on. So it's seen woolly mammoths, it's seen elephants, it's seen snow, so it can do woolly mammoths in the snow. And you know, granted, they're from different sources, and you know, you kind of get a collage of ideas, but you run into this issue where you can't make anything new. You can't make a new people haven't seen before. You can't make a new environment people haven't seen before. You can mix something, you know, I can mix and match an environment from things that already exist. I can collage it, but at the end of the day, how I feel about Sora and its usefulness and how I feel about all these AI tools comes down only to whether or not I can actually train these tools with my own data. I don't want to use your data set. Then you go, here, you can work with our data set and you can do your best to, you know, collage your own little cute idea out of our data set. It's like, no, that's not where the power is. The power isn't in taking somebody else's model and like generating things from it. The power as an artist here, as a creator, is to actually train your own models, to make your own machine learning algorithms, your own machine learning models. That's the tool. The tool isn't the output you get from using somebody else's model. The tool is actually training the model in the first place yourself. That's the real tool here. And I think in the discussion, because this stuff's brand new and no one knows how to use it, no one's ever used it before, that gets, you know, that's, people don't think of AI as that. They, you know, and like OpenAI, when they made Sora, they threw so many computers at it. There's so many GPU hours and so many resources that can give you these high detailed, robust, you know, almost a minute long videos, when really at its core, it's still doing the same thing that you can do on your own computer. You can only just, you know, on your computer, you can only generate half a second. And it's cool that half a second looks really photoreal. It's like, wow, that's great. But it goes, bleh, and that's as far as it gets. You know? So it's like, they're demonstrating.
And actually, I think I love where you're heading, and thank you too for giving a little bit of background. We really kind of skipped over a lot of like general terms and things like that, and you hit a bunch of subjects there. By the way, we never introduced you either. This is Niko, and by the way, he has a show on a YouTube channel called Corridor Crew, where he and his friends are all special effects people that get together, do a bunch of videos that are really interesting, analyzing special effects and talking and interviewing people like us in animation, but also special effects people. Go check out their channel on YouTube. They have millions of followers. Subscribers.
YouTube. Followers.
Subscribers. But elsewhere you have followers. And so sorry about that we kind of skimmed over that. It'll be in the description, of course.
Okay. Ideally, they already know, right? Ideally, they've already
Ideally. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They watched our version of your Corridor Crew where we were on the couch. So they got to know you via us. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So
nice.
But you just gave a pretty good background there and led to a little bit of where I feel like things are headed. And I think a lot of people don't know this. Here's what you were kind of saying that I felt like you were saying was that Sora is really just sort of the consumer side of it, right? It's a consumer AI. Here, play with it, do a couple of videos. I don't know where that's going to head, but obviously you're never going to make a feature film with the consumer product version of Sora. They're like little snippets, and I don't know where that hits. Like, I don't know what the outcome, I don't even know what they want to get out of that exactly. But from what I've heard, and you tell me if you know more about this than me, is that there's a non-consumer side of it. There's a professional version of Sora that they are going to the feature film studios and things like that that can do more powerful things longer. You gotta, but you gotta be a big, like a Disney, like a major studio that has deep pockets, because that level of doing generative AI video is like, you got to have major servers, and software, but also like, the databases too, the clean servers and things like that. And where I'm heading is, there's more than rumors that Disney, among other studios, but Disney specifically, is creating their own clean database of all of their films that they've ever made. They're kind of basically feeding it in, however you want to put that, and creating that kind of a database, so that one day soon, you could theorize, they would be able to basically make a sequel to one of their films with AI.
Or a TV show or a series or something like that.
Right. Something that's a little bit of a derivative, but make it look just like it, and free of copyright problems, right? Because that's the other part I do want to kind of mention, is that that's what's holding people back from really, and I mean businesses, from going full throttle and exploiting generative AI.
Legal issues are definitely
legally they can't. The copyright is on the side of the artist, and I love that. Thankfully, I pray it always stays that way. But where I was headed with that, Niko, is, what do you think about that? Like, how much do you know about like where it's headed? And I mean, on the major studio side.
I love that you're asking Niko to give you the lowdown. Like, some insider info on that.
I mean,
I think he does. Yeah.
So what you're seeing from Sora is what you get right now. Like, that is, whether you're Disney or somebody on the internet, what you're seeing from Sora, that is exactly what you get right now. And yeah, I'm sure they have more levers and knobs and things they can pull, but there isn't necessarily like a consumer or a professional version. What I think is happening in these discussions is, remember, if you jump back a little bit in the conversation, I talked about how the real tool is being able to train your own models and to take your own data and make this machine learning associative model, a statistical model, give you the statistics that you want based on your data. And I think the conversations with OpenAI, from like, say, Disney, to talking about, with the Sora team, would be around that. Like, what would it take for us to work together to hire you guys at OpenAI, or to, what would it cost for us to pay you guys to make a specific model for us? And what would that look like? And what kind of tech would we even need to develop? Like, because once again, this stuff is super early. Like, we're not in the point, we're not even close to the point where you can just generate a TV show that's watchable. I mean, you could generate a TV show 10 years ago using AI, and, it would kind of do its thing, and, but it'd be a garbage TV show. And we're not necessarily in any better position now. I think realistically, because people like to think about the idea of computers completely replacing everything. That's not really what happens. Realistically, we're talking about how can we make it faster to produce TV shows, but somebody still needs to make it, right? The computer's not just going to make it. We're not quite in the stage where you say, TV, give me a show that is perfect for me. Like, we're not there, we're at a stage where somebody's going, how can I take an animation team of 15 people and have them produce a half hour of animation, and have them do it quickly in a span of a week or two. Like, that's what they're trying to figure out, is how do you render things faster? How do you remove the repetition, and how do you enhance the decision making? If, for example, to take it to animation, if all you had to do was draw your keys, and you could keep them rough, and you could have the in-betweens get automatically generated, and you could have the final ink and paint get automatically generated. And then, of course, you could go back and be like, I want to tweak that in between, and you want to get, more refined detail, and then have all that be in a tool package or a software package that is just slick and easy and just works without bugs. That would be wonderful. That would be super empowering. That would let you just make stuff. And honestly, whether you're Disney talking to Sora, or you're just, guys like us, I think that's honestly what everybody's kind of after at the end of the day. But there is an aspect of, hey, maybe we can do the subscription model thing, maybe we can do the Chat GPT thing and let people generate things, but that's just gonna get old quick. It just becomes a stock footage generator. It gives you pretty and bland. It gives you, I can mix and match other ideas, and there's, randomness thrown in there too. And it's fun. I need a shot of a guy surfing for this documentary I'm making. Cool. It's a great tool for that, but like, that's not world moving stuff. That's just that's just another little feature. I think what the stuff that we're talking about, the stuff that gets us excited while we're even having this conversation, like those are the things that let us take a vision here in our mind and go boom and just get it onto a screen as fast as possible. You know?
Yeah. So I think
Niko, what you just said was super hopeful.
It is super
Tony.
hopeful. That's what I'm hoping for.
But very few people are talking like what you just said, where you're like, no, this is a tool. It's going to be a tool. Like the scenario you just gave of like, how can 15 people make an animated half-hour show, on network TV? Like, okay, I don't think anybody would hear that and go, oh, that's too disruptive, and you've just shut down, you cut out 5 people. And you know what I mean? Like most people would go, oh, wait, that's empowering. I just heard that me and a group of my friends could potentially make a TV show that 20 years ago we would never have been able to do. And for old guys like Tony and I, that's, like I said, empowering. But
well, for old guys, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I'll let you get there, Tony. I know you want to say something, but
yeah.
Here's the thing: is I just don't trust business people. You're painting a picture, and everybody interprets AI in a different way, right? We have the people that think it's going to destroy the world tomorrow, all that, Terminator, all that. Yeah. Then they have people that are just like ignoring it. I don't get it. I'm never going to understand, right? Then you have people somewhere in the middle, and there's 2 or 3 versions of the middle, which is basically, and some of the really optimistic side of it, I hear where they're like, oh no, it's going to be this empowering tool that we can now be creative all the time.
Yeah, everyone,
meditative kind of pose. And it's this great equalizer that now 14-year-old kids can make a TV show, and we may want to subscribe to it because they're just boy geniuses or girl geniuses, and they're just now they have the tool to release that energy, but here's the other side of that, and then here's on the other side, which is closer to the Terminator side, which is business people that are pouring billions of dollars, and this is the truth. Business people are pouring, venture capitalists, investors, all this,
absolutely
billions of dollars into AI right now. Anything with AI, any company that has AI on it, throwing money into it, because they see this as the next big cryptocurrency, whatever, next big gold mine, right?
Well, let me add to that, Tom, if you don't mind. Let me dig deeper into that.
And I don't trust those people, is what I was going to say.
I know you love talking.
I think that's healthy. I think that's healthy.
There will be a lot of, let's face it, guys, there's going to be a lot of wasted money because it is so early stage, right? So people are just like throwing money into it, and probably a lot of it is not sticking to the board because of just bad ideas or over eagerness. But let me jump on the fear, because I tell my students all the time, I feel like if you're an artist, if you're a creative that is apt to see the negative in things, or apt to like cling to fearful things in your life, AI gives you a lot of things to be fearful of. Let's face it. Jeffrey Katzenberg, back not too long ago, actually, I want to say, I thought I had a date here, but it was a couple months ago. I actually posted about this 4 months ago. He was in this Bloomberg investors thing talking about AI, and he made this statement, which I got to say, I'll just tell you up front, I hated this statement that he said, because I thought it was totally irrational and irresponsible and based on, I don't know what kind of facts that he had at the time. This was 4 months ago. He said, I can foresee that he said, not 5 years, but in 3 years, 90% of an animated staff will be replaced, and that we'll mostly have animators or artists, if you will, that are just putting it and inputting to make a feature film like we did of the quality of DreamWorks when he was there. He was saying that 4 months ago. Right.
That's huge.
Here's what I think let's face it. I haven't done the research to see how deeply he's invested in AI, but I think that's why he said it, was that he was definitely going down that road already. He likes to be cutting edge and think that he knows it all. But to make such a fear-based, obviously that stirred the pot. I can't tell you how many, Tom and I teach animation here at Lipscomb University in Tennessee, and I can't tell you how many of our students, they're about to graduate. And yes, it's a tough time to get into the animation industry. We've talked about that on this podcast, but on top of it, to throw in what does the future look like because of AI? It is encouraging to me to hear from you, Niko, that you have a hopeful outset for creatives with AI. So I wonder if, first of all, did you hear about Jeffrey Katzenberg's statement that he made 4 months ago? And do you have a comment about that? Like, is it even rational for somebody to say such a thing?
No, I mean, I kind of get maybe what he's trying to say, but I think there's a lot of hype in there. He's jumping on the same train that everybody else jumps on. They're looking for attention, which is AI is about to change your life and it's about to take your job and it's going to change everything. And it's going to change things. iPhone changed things, the internet changed things. Things are going to change. AI is a great tool. It does a lot of amazing things. It's going to change things, but the hyperbolic, dramatized version that is sold like that, no, that's people with, I mean, I sound like a freaking like internet junkie here, but that's people with a profit motive trying to get the hype for the VC, funding, But more specifically,
right.
He's echoing a misconception that a lot of people hold, which is that once you've achieved something, it's good enough. It's like, so let's say that you can get a team of 5 people to deliver a DreamWorks quality movie from 1999 or whatever, 1998, in a matter of weeks. Cool. No one wants DreamWorks 1998 quality movies anymore. We want the best you can do right now with the best tools you can do. Like, if the tools get better, we're not like, that's cool. Don't worry about it. We don't need it to be better. No, we're like, no, if the tools got better, give me better. It's like, if you can make a feature film in the quality of a film from the 90s with a team of 10 people and $1,000, cool. Here's 100 million people and 1,000 people. Now show me what that movie looks like. That's how humans work, actually. When the tools get better, we just go, cool, let's still take massive amounts of people and resources and use those better tools to make better things. So yeah, we don't slow down. People don't slow down. It's better tools, things happening faster, great. Make more and make it better. And that's what really happens.
Well, and I think what I tell my students too is that, every technology breakthrough, whether it be the internet, the computer, things that have happened over the years, since the beginning of technology coming about, has been a disruption and has meant changes in employment and thing. But usually what comes out of it, and I'm hoping, I'm still hopeful for this with AI too. Usually what comes out of it is actually more jobs just in different areas. So what it means is, and this is true about life. I tell this to my students too. Life is about change. And the people that can adapt to change are usually the ones that are going to do well as they continue to grow and learn and evolve. And I think that that's the thing that I've always kind of carried away from any kind of technological thing or any kind of fear factor moment in time where something new happens or there's, studios that close or any of those things, whatever it is that we just need to learn to adapt. And it's the people that can adapt well and go with the change, learn the new stuff, whatever it is, whatever that means in that situation, that do well in life.
Yeah, but adaptation doesn't always mean for the better, right? Like, so there are plenty of people that, feel like, well, you've killed my dream. I'm adapting now. Now I'm a farmer, but I wanted to be an animator.
True.
By the way, I think farmers are safe. Farmers are probably the most
okay
safe
for a little
people
while.
right now.
People still need to eat. Thankfully.
Well, and this is, I say this as a person that also believes passionately that people should follow their dreams. I do. I still say that, but I also know that if you have a dream and you're going to pursue that with all your energy, then success may mean something different for you. It may not mean financial success. It may not mean that you have the big house and things like that, but you could achieve that dream and you could therefore success in life.
It's Campbell's soup and a nice short film. Right?
When I was a student in college, and you guys teach college, right? It's what level? Okay. University. So when I was a student going to University of Wisconsin, digital filmmaking wasn't completely brand new, but it's pretty close to brand new. And the concept of doing visual effects or anything like that on your home computer was pretty crazy. There's like maybe 3 kids in the school who would like be doing that kind of stuff, and then of course like me and my buddy Sam. So there's a very small number of people that are like, hey, we can do this. But at the same time, people were starting to discover like, hey, you can do this. So you'd have people going to film school and be like, hey, I need to learn how to use Final Cut Pro. I need to learn how to use After Effects. And I'd already been working with tools like that for 5 years, 6 years by the time I was at that point in college. And, you know, what I tell them is like, if you're going to school to learn Final Cut Pro, you're getting a bad education. You need to go to school to learn filmmaking, because you'll use Final Cut Pro for 2 years, and then a new program's going to come out, and you're going to use that for a couple of years, and then a new program's going to come out, and you're going to use that for a couple of years. Like, the tools that you use are always going to be changing. The camera you're using is changing every couple of years. The software you're using is changing. Like, all that stuff is constantly changing. What you're going to school for is not to learn how to use the software. You're not going to school to learn how to use the tool. You're going to school to learn what you need to make in the first place. And same thing with AI.
To the men.
Like,
yeah.
Well, and we
Totally.
saw
Anybody
that
who's discouraged.
as the film and animation, we'll just call it media. A lot of these media programs kind of came up in the, we'll say like late 80s and mostly 90s and 2000s. Because of the hits of Lion King and things like that, all these programs were, you know, and they didn't have a lot of professors basically because there was such a boom in the industry. Nobody was leaving the industry to go be a teacher, let's face it. And so they were just hiring people that didn't know how to teach, hadn't done what they were teaching. And so it was all about, many of those programs made mistakes constantly because they would make it about software. And that's what they preached. Oh, we have the best computers. We have the best software. It's up to the date, high tech, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, they ignored many of those programs, and some still do, honestly, ignored the principles of what you're supposed to actually be learning in school. It's an awesome point you made, Niko. Thank you.
Yeah.
But let's
to anybody.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say to anybody, you know, anybody who's discouraged or feeling discouraged coming out of school, I just encourage that point of view where it's like, AI is still just a software tool. No matter how crazy it seems, it's still just a tool. And you're not going to animation school to learn the tool. You know, those fundamental skills you have in animation, that will carry you for the rest of your career through anything that you're doing. It will inform your decisions, no matter if you're sitting there with like a VR headset on and like, you know, sweeping the shapes around, or
Minority Report
inputting brain thoughts into the AI.
Well, but I love what you just said, because, you know, honestly, let's talk just for a second about schools again, one more time, which was even recently, Tony and I have been sort of like a lot of our academics above us that are, you know, basically controlling the schools across the country. They're all looking at AI and they're going, wait a second, we got to get on the bandwagon. These kids are going to leave our program, and they're going to have to now know how to do AI and all that. And so we should be teaching them how to do prompts. And like literally even animation programs are starting to go, how are you teaching AI? Because it's today, and we have to be up to date, blah, blah, blah. And people like Tony and I, who we're actually not people that like to put our heads in the sand. I think we try to be progressive as far as keeping an eye on the future. But to say, okay, but let's give up what we're teaching now, and now just pursue what's in the future. And by the way, most of it is intangible at this moment. What would you even teach about AI? I don't even know. But
yeah.
But you know, it's just changing, but it's also so new. But like people are literally, they're thinking like that. They're like, okay, we're about to be a dinosaur, and I'm talking about schools. And so therefore, all of you instructors, you got to get on the bandwagon and start teaching AI somehow, some way, because then we can then advertise that to their parents and say, we're up, you know, we're high tech, we're teaching AI. And we're like, guys, we're still talking about 2D animation here, because the principles, the 12 principles that aren't broken, you know, we're still teaching that, because if you can't get the AI to know that, you better know it yourself. Anyway, how do you feel about where schools are headed and things like that? Is this something, because you kind of already mentioned it with software, I assume you equate AI the same way?
Yeah, no, I would hope schools would actually try to stay current and try to involve talking about AI, machine learning. I feel like we should call it machine learning a little more frequently, because AI is kind of a movie term. We're talking about training a machine model, you know, and we can keep saying AI, but I do use them a little bit interchangeably. AI is like the concept, machine learning is the tool. But I'm glad the schools would be talking about teaching it. You know, and I would encourage everybody listening to this podcast to go out and try creating a piece of art using some sort of AI tool, whatever you want. Just go try it. And suddenly you will discover it is just a tool and it does not do the job for you whatsoever. It's cool. It's novel. It's got a bunch of amazing power. It's a great lever, right? But, you know, the reason I can be so optimistic about it is because there's this huge open source movement that's kind of been happening right now. And that's where all of our AI tools that we've been messing with have come from. And it's come from communal grassroots, you know, somebody smart here makes a cool plugin, and somebody smart over here makes a cool interface for it, and then somebody smart makes a tutorial for it, and then I get to use it, and it's really cool. And then it happens again, it happens again. If that goes away, I will be bitter and pessimistic and negative and just as much of a doomsdayer as anybody else out there.
And I can understand why, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of from what I understand, that's how Corridor Crew really started, right? Was taking, you guys wanted to prove that you could kind of do the effects that you love to see in these high-end movies using open source material, lower budget things, your own home computers kind of thing, right? That's a big part of what you guys are as those renegade Corridor guys.
Yeah, exactly. And I would encourage anybody listening to this who's messing with AI, it's like support the open source stuff. Go and like give money to the Patreons for the people making those open source tools. You know, signing up for your $20 subscription to Midjourney or OpenAI, cool. But maybe if you can, take those $20 and bring them to the open source side instead, where the tools are being made by community members with community members, and there's a bunch of amazing stuff happening. And honestly, at the end of the day, with the way people in the software industry kind of move around and what happens and the way people, you know, release academic papers, I don't think the open source thing is going away at all. In fact, I think it's probably stronger than ever and will remain strong. So I'm super hopeful there. But that's what I've been seeing as a trend. And that's why, you know, to me, it's an exciting thing because at least the tools that I look at, you know, I'm not looking at OpenAI, I'm looking at Comfy UI, which is, you know, creators making stuff. It's people on Discord exchanging ideas and doing experiments. It's like, it's everything you want something powerful, software development. It's everything you'd want it to be in the open by the people that you know, like happening right there in front of you with your input. And that's where I'm currently kind of living in it, you know, with the tools that I'm messing with. Yeah.
But let's talk about that. So you said open source, but and I know this isn't what you meant by any means, but you could say open source is also where they're getting all their images, right? That's not the open source you're talking about. But let's talk about that issue.
Kind of.
Which is, as we know, Sora and all of them, they've already, the irony is that they've already put the stock footage industry out of business pretty much. You can create, you already said it, basically you're creating stock footage. I want to, you know, have a shot, you know, flying over this environment. You know, you can do those kind of things with Sora really, really well. And it's because they fed into it stock footage libraries, right? They bought out libraries. The irony is when they were selling those footage libraries were selling them, they didn't realize what they were doing was really putting themselves out of business. But that is literally what's happening right now. Now let's back that up to the artists out there on the internet, on Instagram specifically, that are posting every day artwork. And I'm one of them. Tony's one of them. And obviously that art community are some of the people that had backlash against you guys too, obviously in your comments. And it's a real issue is that, you know, nobody's regulating this. They've basically, I saw a whole article about, you know, the president, you know, or one of the officials over there at the major companies that was saying, yeah, I don't even really know where we got all of our images from. You know, she was very open about, like, in a really tricky, weird way.
Be sure to subscribe to the Pencilish Studios YouTube channel.
If it's on the internet, we kind of think that it's kind of open to us to use. And that's not the agreement that we all have with the internet. But go ahead.
I want to clarify a few things here, just real quick. So first, Sora is actually not available yet for anybody to use publicly. It's not actually, it's still very much in like research and development stage.
I forgot that part. Thanks.
And people,
yes.
Yeah, people can work with it, but supposedly won't launch if it launches for half a year at least. Also, Getty Images did just actually get a big payout from OpenAI. I believe while the CTO was not open, which is ironic, about their data sets. For the most part, they are starting to pay out and license these data sets, not in a like underhanded way, but in a, Getty Images, we got money. Here's big stacks. Give us the images. So they are paying for it. How much of it is paid for? I don't know. Should the CTO be perfectly open about their data sets? Yes, she should. They should stop being secretive for a company named OpenAI. In fact, it is their responsibility to be open and not secretive. It is the right thing to do. That's one of the things I'm critical of that company. I think they are hypocritical in that way. But that said, we have to now kind of think about the tool a little bit here. So for example, let's say I want to make a tool that could recognize what song was playing on the radio, aka Shazam, right? I would gather lots and lots of copywritten data, songs that I do not own, and I would train an AI on how to recognize those songs. But the product at the end of the day isn't making you a song, it's recognizing the song that's being played on the radio. So in my opinion, that's a totally fair use of copywritten data. You are not trying to just make a duplicate of someone else's song. You are using copywritten data to train a computer on how to recognize certain things, and the output is not at all what the input is. So I think that's a totally okay use on copywritten data. Secondly, let's say you're training an image model on copywritten data. If you are training the image model to be able to recognize things, to be able to put images together, like to be able to understand the visual world, you will have to show it copywritten things. If I want to ask an AI, image generator, what does Bart Simpson look like? And it goes, I can't tell you. It's pretty dystopian to think that like concepts are so locked down that you can't openly talk about a character that is in public conscience, But at the same time, if you're like, generate me a Simpsons episode, where does that start? So now open, whoever makes that video generator, are they getting the money for putting out Simpsons episodes, right? So it starts to get hairy. And so this is one of those things where I'm okay with things being trained on public data. And this is just me personally. Like, I don't speak for anybody, right? Outside of myself here. But I'm okay with image models being trained on copywritten data, public data, etc., as long as those models are then given to the public. If you use the public's data to train a model, to train something, cool, it's re-experimentation. We're all growing together as a community. Here it is, back to the public. And then it's up to, the people using it. If I go and I rip somebody else off and put out a copy of their show, you have to call me on it. Like, it's like we're not in any different scenario than we're already in as a species already, So
I love you, Niko, but that is so trusting, and there's going to be people listening. Honestly, they're going to go, that's a pretty naive kind of a standpoint. Because what you just said is, what if my intention was to create Shazam, right? I got copyrighted music. Any business person would then go, wait, what if now that I created that Shazam program, what if I just said, write me a song? Because it's all that input is already in there. And what if that could do that? And they try it.
If that's coming from copywritten data, then you're going to get in trouble. Like that's where you enter the territory.
I just
like,
don't.
No, that's not okay. Yeah.
Well, I think the bigger.
But proving that it's going to become hard to do, right? Because you got
I don't know.
It mixed up 500 songs.
If the output of your machine, if the value of that output is derived from the value of your input and you didn't pay for anything for that input, you will get called on it, you will get sued, you will get litigated, and chances are you are going to get shut down. It's been pretty well established. Let's say if I make an image generator model and I use a bunch of copywritten data, stuff that I did not pay for, and the value of my business is the images that I put out from the image generation model, I will get sued and I will probably get in trouble. We don't have laws 100% in place for this yet, but there are some laws that have been in place on this stuff for a little while. But also from a consumer point of view, if somebody rips somebody else off, it doesn't really matter what tool they use to do it, whether it's a photocopier or an AI image generator. If somebody rips somebody else off, we can feel it. We can tell. You can tell, like, hey, you ripped somebody else off. If Netflix dropped a cartoon where they just trained in Vampire Hunter D, and that's all they did, and they didn't pay anybody for that data, they would get called out on it super hard, and it doesn't matter what the law is whatsoever. People would tear them apart, you know?
It's true.
So we already have a sense of judgment for what constitutes ripping people off. And we can see that it's possible to rip people off with AI. It totally is possible to rip people off with AI. It's totally possible to rip somebody off with a camera. I can go to a movie theater and record somebody else's movie and start selling DVDs of it. And that is an actual problem that people deal with. You know, it's like that does exist, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what the tool is going to always be used for. And it's also, I think, important to understand where these distinctions lie. It's a nuanced thing. It's a detailed thing.
Yeah, and I think what you bring up too is a bigger discussion that's happening right now. Literally, our government, and I don't think it's happening fast enough, that's my opinion, is trying to figure out how they update copyright laws, how they enforce copyrightable material like this being used as data points. You know, what has already been taken from individuals and corporations through the internet and what's already out there. They're trying to figure this out. But what's happening is the fact that everything is happening so fast that litigation can't even move fast enough. You said it earlier. It's like there's not laws right now. We are kind of in a wild west when it comes to what is the legalities of AI and how it's being used, and who's going to enforce that, especially when the internet is worldwide. It's not country to country. They have access to images from all over the world. So how do you deal with that?
This is where I think it's one of the next things that we're gonna start seeing become very popular is tagging, somehow tagging all of your information. And it could be books, it could be photos, it could be videos, because I think data is going to be, and mining that data, let's be honest, is going to be the popular thing as we move forward in being able to perfect this machine learning. And so you're going to
bring up NFTs now, are you? Are you going to talk about NFTs?
I'm going to talk about the blockchain. And obviously the blockchain would be a tool in that. Do you have any feelings about that, Niko, of like how they can control your basically claiming all of your data that is out there? Do you think that's going to be a big issue, or it is already?
I mean, it annoys me that like Reddit is selling, you know, the stuff that everybody's written on it as training data for an LLM, but it's not that big a deal to me, I guess, at the end of the day. You know, I think it's easy to get into the what ifs and forget about what people want. People don't want random AI generated junk. People don't want ripped off ideas. It doesn't matter. Like the camera has existed for a long time. People still buy paintings. You know, I can get a photocopy of Harry Potter. I still go buy Harry Potter. You know, I don't read fan fiction of Harry Potter. I get the actual book, Harry Potter, you know? It's just, I think it's really easy to forget why is AI even special in the first place? It's because it just lets us be artists in a new way. You know, it's because it lets us make new visual ideas or try new tools. If that stuff didn't exist, that AI wouldn't be a thing. People wouldn't care, you know? And I think it's worth also specifying, there's also like the LLM ChatGPT side of AI, which is really what's driving a lot of the big tech stuff, because that's where you start getting into someone is finally stepping into Google's ad revenue search engine monopoly game. You know, like when we talk about the billions of dollars going into AI, it's not really going into AI animation. You know, Sora is cool. Sora is a small sliver of what is actually the focus of OpenAI, which is we might be able to dethrone Google by having an LLM give you search results and helping you interact with the internet into the digital world versus Google's search bar being the way you interact with the digital world. That's where the billions of dollars are coming from. You know, people being able to generate cool pictures with AI, that's not driving billions of dollars right now.
So, that's a really good point.
You know, they do
get
conflated, and they have similarities in how the technology works. And I get it. So but it's a big nuance.
Well, and I have friends that say that they use ChatGPT as a search engine basically, because they're getting more accurate, more I guess specific kind of results, and than they do with Google. So it's already happening. It's a really good point.
Unfortunately, Google's kind of turned into garbage. The way they've kind of broke the internet in a certain way, because of how they optimize for search engines and ad revenue. And it's like, so the way you interact with the internet is shaped by Google and websites trying to be high on Google's list. And you no longer have a website where somebody just writes something and it's good enough to live forever. It's like, I write a good recipe. All I need to do is write the recipe once, and it doesn't matter if it's 10 years later, that recipe is still good. It's like, that's not how Google wanted the internet to work. So that's not how the internet works. And now you have pages generating, pages and pages and pages of AI just fluff because they need to make content fast because that's what Google prioritized. And like, so this whole weird messed up cycle of like how to interact with the internet. And that is starting to break. And that to me is cool. I think that's super exciting.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what happens out of that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's great.
Niko,
breaking things, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Niko, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. I know we have to wrap up. There's so much more we could talk about, but you've really given a hope. I know, and I get that. And by the way, we could too, although we're really at the point of not knowing anything. So, but I really
one thing more about AI for sure. But yeah, we'll talk about 2D animation.
Not everybody is. Yeah, that one we could do. Not everybody's going to agree with everything you're saying, but I really appreciate your hopeful outlook on this, and you've given us another viewpoint on this subject that was really sorely needed. And I know I appreciate it, especially. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, I do too. And I think the important thing to say is that, that we don't look at the future with fear, but with hope, because I do think there is a future that is very hopeful still for the art form of animation specifically, but also for filmmaking, creativity, a lot of things that we as humans will always do better than machines.
Definitely. They're all just tools at the end of the day. Powerful tools sometimes, world-changing tools sometimes, but still just tools. Still needs a person to hit the button, and AI is no different. It's, we've watched a lot of sci-fi movies. We like to imagine Skynet. It's crazy. It's dramatic. Still just tools at the end of the day. Still somebody sitting there banging their head on the wall, be like, why is this giving me an error? Why can't I get this to look like a human face? The same problems everything else has. And you're going to sit there and obsess over your artwork like you would in any other medium. But yeah,
true.
And at the end of the day, like most of these tools, everything we're talking about, you can go out and you can try it right now. And if anybody listening is like worried about things, scared about things, have a very negative opinion on AI, art tools in general, go out there and use them. Just go out there and use them. They're right there. Learn about them. Try them out. It's one of the things, if you truly feel like this is going to end your career, and you should probably take an hour and go check out these tools.
Makes sense, right?
That's the other thing I want to really encourage people to think about here. Let's not live in our imagination like doomland. Or regurgitate what all of our friends are saying on the internet, or people that we respect and admire on the internet they're saying this. So therefore I think that way. It's kind of like when you critique a movie and you haven't seen it yet. That's the thing that irks me more than anything. Don't talk about something that you don't really know, right? So you're kind of saying the same thing. So, well, we really appreciate your perspective, Niko, and you being on the show today. This has been really cool. Well, thank you for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure, and you guys have been so gracious coming out to our studio to film React episodes with us and sharing your stories with us. I mean, thanks for inviting me. I'm glad I got to kind of return the favor at least just a little bit.
Well, hopefully we'll be on the couch someday soon.
You owe us two more podcasts. So
I do,
but we'll collect. This is
all right,
awesome,
everybody.
Niko. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on the Bancroft Brothers Animation Podcast. And Tom, as we always say,
animate
from the
heart.
If you like what you just saw, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, Pencilish Studios.